Who will win, Trigon or Apocalypse? In a distant dimension where darkness mingles with hellfire, Trigon was born as a terrifying entity. He was no ordinary being, but a symbol of primal power. A giant demon with skin as red as molten magma, yellow eyes that flashed like dead stars. From the moment he was born, when he was only 1 year old, Trigon ruled his home planet. The skies above the planet were covered in dark clouds, and the ground shook under his every step. He stretched out his arms, and towering mountains collapsed like sandcastles, while the people trembled and knelt before the irresistible power. At the age of 6, Trigon destroyed the entire planet. He stood at the center of the crumbling world, his colossal body radiating destructive energy, causing the oceans to boil and the atmosphere to tear apart. Planetary debris flew through space, reflecting the crimson light from his body, creating a chaotic picture of destruction. It did not stop there. By the age of 30, Trigon had conquered his entire dimension. Trillions of worlds within that dimension fell into his hands, each world a planet with abundant life, but all were absorbed by him. He flew through dimensional barriers, his hands tearing apart invisible curtains, revealing parallel universes that sparkled like crystals. Billions of souls were devoured by him, transformed into energy sources that nourished his power, making his body grow larger and larger, his shadow blocking out the stars. Trigon was not just a conqueror. He was an entity on par with the supreme gods. He once fought Mr. Mixie-Zepdolk, a mischievous creature from the 5th dimension, and that confrontation ended in a stalemate. The sky shook with multicolored lightning, and space itself warped under the power of the two entities, creating cracks that glittered like giant spiderwebs. Trigon also conquered the entire universe, resurrecting Zoriel, a fallen angel with dark wings, and slaughtering the gods. He stood before them, his body glowing with hellfire, and one by one the gods fell under his attack, their blood staining the void. Even the Voice and the Phantom Stranger, mystical beings, did not faze him. He defeated the Justice League, mighty heroes with fluttering capes and glittering weapons, and killed Dr. Fate, the golden-helmed sorcerer. Even the Monitors, guardians of the multiverse, implied that he was on par with the Spectre, the ultimate avenging being with a green cape and boundless power. In his own dimension, Trigon reigned as an immortal king. He sits upon a throne made from the bones of conquered worlds, watching through glittering portals, waiting for the chance to expand his empire. His shadow casts itself across the planets, casting colossal shadows that blot out the sun, keeping their people in eternal fear. Trigon knows no mercy. He knows only power and domination. In an alternate universe where Earth is the center of heroic battles, Apocalypse emerged as an immortal entity from ancient Egypt. He is a mutant with blue-gray skin, a muscular body covered in metallic armor that glistens in the desert sun. His eyes glow red like hellfire, and his voice echoes like thunder. Apocalypse has lived through millennia, witnessing the fall of empires and the rise of heroes. He has encountered planetary-level threats to the galaxy, but his exploits mainly revolve around confronting the X-Men and the Inhumans. In a fight, Apocalypse restrained the Hulk without a banner. The Hulk, a giant green monster with muscles bulging like mountains, charged at him with punches that shook the ground. Apocalypse stood firm, his hand gripping the Hulk's neck, his energy drawing strength from his opponent, leaving the Hulk weakened under the bright sunlight. He also overwhelmed Ikaris, the Eternal, with his glowing eyes and the ability to fly like a falcon. The battle took place in the sky, with energy bolts shooting from Ikaris' hands, but Apocalypse dodged skillfully, his armor absorbing the attacks and countering with deadly blows. Apocalypse had defeated the young Thor in their first battle. Thor, the thunder god with the glittering hammer Mjolnir, swung his weapon, creating a blinding bolt of lightning. But Apocalypse, with his power amplified, wrestled and defeated him, sending Thor falling to the dusty ground. However, in the second battle, he lost. He was then overwhelmed by Odinson Thor and Jane Thor in the past. The two Thors stood side by side, their hammers swinging in a storm of lightning, and Apocalypse retreated before their combined might. He also wrestled with Namor, the mighty Sea King with the ability to swim like a shark. The battle took place under the ocean, where the water swirled around them, and Apocalypse emerged wounded but still resilient. Black Bolt, the Inhuman King with the voice of destruction, kicked him in the ass, sending Apocalypse flying through the air, his body colliding with the rocks in massive explosions. Finally, the Celestials, giant beings in glittering cosmic armor, brought him down despite his being amplified by the stolen energy of a host of powerful mutants. Apocalypse stood before them, his body glowing with stolen energy, but the Celestials raised their hands, and he was pushed back, their massive silhouettes blocking the sky. Apocalypse is an indomitable warrior, but his strength is limited by those failures. He wanders through the ages, seeking to increase his strength, with his eyes always on the future where he can dominate. Many characters have witnessed the power of Trigon and Apocalypse. The Justice League, a group of heroes led by Superman, red cape fluttering, has faced Trigon. Superman flies at supersonic speed, red laser eyes glowing, but Trigon just waves his hand and the hero is pushed back. Batman, with his dark cape and sharp intellect, plans in the dark, but even he is no match for Trigon's infernal power. Dr. Fate, the magician with the golden helmet and blue cape, was killed by Trigon. The fight took place in a mystical space, where magical symbols sparkled, but Trigon tore them apart, his hand gripping Dr. Fate's neck and sucking out the soul. The Spectre, a vengeful being with a green body and boundless power, was implied to be Trigon's equal. The two entities stood face to face, the space around them vibrating with ultimate energy. On Apocalypse's side, the X-Men, led by Cyclops, red goggles flashing, fought against him. Wolverine, with his adamantium claws gleaming, charged at Apocalypse, but he dodged and counterattacked. The Inhumans, with Black Bolt, silent but with a destructive voice, joined the fight, creating massive explosions. Zauriel, the fallen angel resurrected by Trigon, with dark wings and a flaming sword, stood by Trigon as a loyal ally. Mr. MXYZPCTLK, the mischievous creature with a bowler hat and reality-bending abilities, who had been at stalemate with Trigon, now watched from afar. The characters prepared for the big fight. Trigon opened a portal. A red rift appeared, leading to Apocalypse's universe. Apocalypse sensed the threat, his body vibrating with energy, and he summoned his old allies. The sky darkened, winds howled across the planets, signaling the coming storm. The sky of the Earth was dyed red with blood as Trigon stepped through the space gate, his gigantic body like a living mountain, emitting the brilliant light of hellfire. With each step he took, the ground shook. Cracks that stretched for miles spread like spiderwebs, dust rising up, blocking the sunlight. His golden eyes flashed, reflecting absolute cruelty and power, as if the entire universe had to kneel before him. Apocalypse stood opposite, his solid body in silver metal armor, his hands clenched, the alien energy swirling around him like a storm. Apocalypse's crimson eyes did not tremble, but deep down he felt the difference in class. The space between them shook, the air thick as if compressed by the power of the two entities. Trigon waved his hand. A wave of crimson hell energy rushed out like a fire dragon, tearing through space and causing nearby buildings to disintegrate into dust. Apocalypse quickly transformed his body, his armor absorbing some of the energy, but Trigon's power was too terrifying. He was pushed back, his feet sliding on the ground, leaving two deep marks. Apocalypse roared, his voice echoing like thunder, and counterattacked with a series of blue energy beams, amplified by the power of dozens of mutants he had absorbed. The beams of light cut across the sky, colliding with Trigon's radiant chest, creating dazzling explosions like fireworks. But Trigon only laughed, a deep and deep laugh, echoing like the sound of a death knell. His fiery red skin was unaffected, as if Apocalypse's attacks were just a passing breeze. He summoned Zauriel, a fallen angel with wings as black as the night sky, the flaming sword in his hand burning like the sun. Zauriel swooped down from the sky, each flap of his wings creating powerful gusts of wind, sweeping away everything in its path. His sword slashed at Apocalypse, leaving a trail of fire in the air. Apocalypse dodged, his body stretching unnaturally, and he grabbed Zauriel's wing, using his superhuman strength to throw the fallen angel to the ground. There was a loud bang as Zauriel hit the ground, creating a huge crater, dust flying like a sandstorm. Meanwhile, other characters began to join in. From afar, the X-Men appeared, led by Cyclops with his red glasses. He fired an optic blast, the red light cutting through space, aimed straight at Trigon. But he only raised his hand, and the beam was bent, flying back, forcing Cyclops to jump to the side to avoid it. Wolverine charged forward, his adamantium claws glinting in the dim light, slashing at Trigon's leg. But his claws left only small scratches on his red skin, and Trigon kicked hard, sending Wolverine flying hundreds of meters, crashing into a hill and causing it to collapse. Across the portal, the Justice League appeared, led by Superman. His red cape fluttered, his eyes flashing with red lasers. Superman lunged at Trigon at supersonic speed, his fist creating a sonic boom as it collided with his chest. But Trigon grabbed Superman's wrist, the hellish force forcing Earth's mightiest hero to his knees. He threw Superman through space, his body flying through the sky like a meteor, leaving a trail of bright light before crashing into a mountain, exploding into a million pieces. Black Bolt, king of the Inhumans, appeared, eyes stern and body ready. He opened his mouth, and a destructive scream rang out, the shockwave spreading out, destroying everything in its path. The sound waves collided with Trigon, creating a huge explosion, causing space to shake as if it was about to collapse. But Trigon only stood firm, his body absorbing the sound waves, the crimson light on his body becoming even more brilliant. He swung his arm, and a burst of energy knocked Black Bolt away, sending him flying through the air and falling into the distant ocean. Apocalypse, though overwhelmed, did not give up. He used every feat he had ever achieved, transforming his body to increase his strength, and charged at Trigon like an indomitable warrior. He tried to restrain Trigon as he had done with the Hulk, his hand gripping his giant arm, the mutant energy surging to absorb his opponent's strength. But Trigon only laughed, his infernal power far surpassing anything Apocalypse had ever faced. He jerked his hand, and Apocalypse was sent flying, his body crashing through a mountain range, sending fragments of rock flying everywhere. The battle dragged on, the surrounding space was torn apart, cracks spreading like spiderwebs. Nearby planets shook, clouds of cosmic dust swirled like tornadoes. Trigon, with his experience conquering trillions of worlds, gradually gained the upper hand, while Apocalypse, though resilient, began to tire. The crimson light from Trigon's body covered the sky, as if the sun had been replaced by a hellish star. Apocalypse, despite fighting with all his might, began to feel despair. His body was covered in wounds, his metal armor now cracked, the glittering fragments falling to the ground like shooting stars. He stood up, his crimson eyes still burning with the will to fight, but each step he took became heavier, as if the entire universe was weighing on his shoulders. Trigon, with a majestic appearance, stepped closer. Each step he took caused the ground to crack open, magma gushing from underground, creating a terrifying scene like the end of the world. He raised his hand, and a crimson ball of energy formed, growing larger until it covered the sky. Apocalypse tried to resist, firing a final series of energy beams, but they dissipated before Trigon's ball, like candles extinguished in a storm. Zariel, though severely injured from Apocalypse's throw, returned to Trigon's side. His black wings were torn, but the flaming sword was still burning. He slashed at Apocalypse, and this time, he succeeded in making him bleed. A deep cut appeared on Apocalypse's chest, blue blood flowing out, evaporating when it touched the hot air. Apocalypse roared, grabbed Zoriel's sword and broke it, but the action caused him to lose the last of his strength. Trigon did not give Apocalypse a chance to recover. He threw a powerful punch, his giant fist like a meteorite falling down, smashing into Apocalypse's chest. The explosion sounded like thunder, and Apocalypse was sent flying through space, his body passing through dozens of buildings before stopping in a pile of rubble. The ground shook, smoke and dust rose, and Apocalypse lay there, breathing weakly. The remaining heroes, from the X-Men to the Justice League, tried to intervene, but all to no avail. Superman returned, his body covered in wounds, but was grabbed by Trigon and thrown into space again. Cyclops and Wolverine joined forces, but they were swept away by a wave of Trigon's energy, falling into the rubble. Black Bolt, though he had risen from the ocean, had no strength left to scream again. Trigon stood tall, his golden eyes scanning the battlefield. He raised his hand, and a red portal opened behind Apocalypse. He stepped forward, each step like a death drum, and grabbed Apocalypse by the neck. Hellish energy flowed through his hand, engulfing Apocalypse's body, causing him to scream in pain. His body convulsed, the light in his eyes slowly fading, and finally, he disappeared into the darkness of the portal, sucked into an infinite dimension where Trigon ruled. With Apocalypse defeated, Trigon stood in the middle of the battlefield, his body glowing like a living volcano. The sky above Earth was now a sea of red fire, black clouds swirling around him like a cosmic tornado. The surviving heroes, from Superman to Wolverine, lay scattered on the ground, their bodies covered in wounds, their eyes filled with helplessness. Zariel knelt before Trigon, his broken sword stuck in the ground as a symbol of surrender. Trigon did not stop. He opened another portal, larger and brighter, leading to his own dimension. Through the portal, one could see devastated planets, red skies, and trillions of souls screaming in pain. He stepped through the portal, his colossal figure disappearing, leaving Earth in a state of chaos. The cracks in the ground still smoked, and the air was heavy with the smell of sulfur. In his own dimension, Trigon returned to his throne, made from the bones of conquered worlds. He sat down, his golden eyes scanning the space, where imprisoned souls sparkled like trapped stars. He raised his hand, and a nearby planet disintegrated, its energy flowing into his body, making him even more powerful. Zoriel stood beside him, his black wings restored, his loyal gaze fixed on his master.